I call this meeting of the Alvin Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. If you would, please stand for the pledge and invocation by Trustee Harris.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, fill us with your grace as we celebrate our students' and staff's accomplishments this evening. Continue to remind us that all we do today, all that we accomplish, is for the greater glory of you and for the service of humanity. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Welcome to the board meeting tonight. All right, next we
have some greeters here with us today. So board and everyone, we want to welcome you all here. And tonight we had some greeters. The greeters for this evening are members of various Alvin ISD visual arts departments in honor of National Youth Art Month, which has been recognized in a declaration by the Alvin Mayor, Paul Horn, and a declaration signed by Superintendent Nelson. Youth Art Month is an intensified celebration of visual arts during the month of March and encourages support for contemporary, dynamic school art programs. Throughout the month of March, Alvin ISD's visual arts program participate in special exhibits, Big Art Day, and the school and community activities to celebrate visual arts education across grades K through 12. Our greeters would like to present a gift to the board in thanks for our support of the arts in Alvin ISD. Each bag is a work of art by an Alvin ISD elementary student, and inside is a ceramic bowl created by a high school art student for you to bring to this year's Alvin ISD Spring Art Show in April to participate in the Empty Bowls project. So we have some friends here that are presenting. So as they're presenting, I will call their name. We have Jacob Clark. There's Jacob, and he's with Alvin Elementary. We have Waylon Fisher.
Where's Waylon?
Do we have
Where's
Waylon?
Waylon? Waylon?
Waylon is Mark Twain Elementary. And then we have Mark Perez, who's with Hood Case Elementary. And then we also have Kimber Arriaga from E.C. Mason Elementary. Great job, students. Thank you so much for helping us out tonight.
So that one was my bag. So
Tell me about the bowls. Just tell me, how did you make her?
I didn't do anything.
Oh, okay. Just that one's your bag, though? You decorated it? Okay. Thank you, Jacob.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. So sweet.
Let us see your bowls so we can see your awesome artwork. It's pretty incredible. We have some really talented students there with their artwork. And the bags are even decorated. Look at that. Awesome.
Check out the bag.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
students.
Thank
We
you
appreciate
so much.
that. And board and guests, we also had some more people that were helping us today. So also serving as greeters are members of the Panthers bowling team. They competed in the Special Olympics Regional Bowling Competition on Saturday, January 21st in Houston. The following athletes competed.
Mason.
Mason,
Y'all come
come
over.
to the middle.
There we
There we go. Awesome. Did y'all win some medals? Can you tell me who your friends are that competed?
Awesome.
Okay. What's your name, babe? Patrick and Roland.
Roland.
Wonderful. And y'all competed in the bowling?
They did. They competed on January 21st in Houston in bowling. So they did an excellent job, and that's why they're here tonight helping us greet everyone as they walked in. So let's give them a hand for their awesome.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations. That's right. That's pretty awesome.
Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Next, we'll have the superintendent's report.
So board, lots of great things happening in Alvin ISD. Of course, if you were watching Channel 13 at any point, on Monday mornings, you were able to follow the bracket for the NCAA, read to the Final Four. We are proud to announce that we have one of our schools still in the Final Four competing against Crosby ISD, Cy-Fair ISD, and Pasadena ISD, and that's Dr. Red Duke Elementary School. We also had Glen York and Walt Disney that were in the Final 8 bracket, so congratulations to all of our third graders across the district that competed. And every time I saw the superintendent from Crosby, Miss Patterson, she would give me a hard time about, you need to tell Alvin to lay back a little bit. Y'all are very competitive. I said, yes, we are. You haven't met our campus leaders and our students, but what a great program. We're looking forward to celebrating on March the 31st. Two of our schools will be traveling to the George R. Brown Center for the fest, the NCAA fest, where students will get to compete in some of the activities there. And then one of the schools, Duke, will go over then to NRG and actually get to see the teams warming up and stuff for the Final Four. So it's pretty cool, and we're hoping U of H is in that competition there. So thank you to Ms. Rives, who organized it, facilitated it, and kept our teams motivated throughout. So thank you. And to our principals as well. Congratulations. We just got finished celebrating FFA Week, and what an amazing National FFA Week it was for Alvin FFA. And some of the pictures are up here. They hosted a breakfast one morning. They had different activities throughout the week. And if you know anything about FFA, it teaches lots of skills in leadership, responsibility, great opportunities for our students that lead them throughout life. And so lots of great things happening in FFA across the district. Alvin ISD communication team earned awards at the state conference. They received multiple awards at the Texas State Public Relations Association Conference on February the 15th, or February the 20th through the 23rd, I'm sorry. They received 11 gold, 2 silver, 1 bronze, 1 Best of Show award, and a platinum certificate of merit for their work in 2021-2022. And you can see some of the team along with Ms. Sheila Olson, who's the executive director of Alvin ISD Education Foundation. She's part of that celebration. And Anna Passarella, who's our director of family and community engagement. Rachel Moore, Philip Jean, Brittany Blanchard, and of course, Ms. Rives. So thank you to our communications team who works behind the scenes to make us all look good and all the hard work they put in. Our Read Across America just occurred on March the 2nd. Parents, board members, administrators, and more participated Read Across America Day. Read Across America is an annual reading motivation and awareness program that calls for every child in every community to celebrate reading on March the 2nd. Of course, that's the birthday of our beloved children's author, Dr. Seuss. And so across the district, everyone had guest readers during that day. Then, to highlight our J.B. Hensler Dental Assistant Program, they received a grant for $183,000 through the High Demand Job Training Program. The program's a matching grant partnership between Manville Economic Development Corporation and the Gulf Coast Workforce Board from Workforce Solutions. The grant covered everything students could need, from dental chairs, x-ray machines, and lab equipment to a new sterilization center, mannequins for practice, and lab equipment. And if you haven't heard about this program, it is exceptional. We have a very highly qualified instructor in the program who was a dental hygienist for many, many years, and she just has great relationships with students, and that's all under the leadership of Mr. Kyle Kettler, leads that campus. And so Shiny was a teacher of the year for that campus at one time. Shiny George, she's the instructor, and her picture's there at the bottom. But a great, great program. Of course, then next week is spring break, and so we want to make sure parents know that and they don't drop their kids off at school, because no one will be there except maybe our maintenance department, because they work throughout spring break to make sure our schools are prepared and ready for the students to return the final week. But I also want to remind you the time changes Saturday night, Sunday. A lot of you save your hour Sunday night if you're like me, and then so make sure you're at school that next Monday on time. So, you'll have a week to get used to it, I guess. So anyway, but safe travels if you're going anywhere or if you're staying home. We hope that we have beautiful weather. And of course, the rodeo, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is going on as well. So, Ms. Rives.
Okay, now is our commendation section. So if I call your name, students, please come up, and we will have you stand there until your section's finished. And then parents, you are welcome to take pictures. If you'd like to step out in the aisle or whatever, we will wait for you. So since this is a very special moment that your child has, we'd like for you to have the opportunity to capture that if you would like. So without further ado, we'll get started. So first of all, we want to talk about swimming and diving at the state level. So on February 9th and 10th, 2 members of the Iowa Colony High School diving team traveled to San Antonio to compete in the 4A UIL Swimming and Diving State Championship. These 2 athletes are the first athletes from Iowa Colony to attend a state championship. So congratulations. Congratulations to the following. So Lorelei Marquez placed 5th in the girls 1 meter diving. And Dyson Nevels placed 4th in the men's 1 meter diving. And then we'll ask Coach Valerie Wingerson to come up as well to get a picture with them. And Miss Marquez.
Renee, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first year these kids have ever even tried to dive, right?
Yes, yes,
Great.
pretty incredible. Miss Marquez, you want to get up
Very
there with them?
impressive.
Yes. So go up there and we'll get it for you.
Yes, we're going to ask our
Going up there, Miss Marquez. Yes.
Yes, the principal needs to come
Yes.
up. Just because your daughter is one of them, proud mom, but you're also principal.
Awesome
That's
job.
outstanding. Congratulations.
So on February 17th and 18th, the 5A and 6A UIL Swimming and Diving State Championship took place in Austin. Congratulations to the following. We're going to start with Manville High School. So we have Sydney Caillou from the girls 1 meter diving and 14th place finish. Safia Gambola in the 100-yard breaststroke, the 14th place finish. And then if we could have Coach Caitlin Cunningham and Miss Flowers, if you would like to come up.
Dr. Flowers, you want to come up and
Yes.
get a picture with your team? Awesome.
Got to take one on the way up there, you know. Great job. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And next we have Shadow Creek High School, and we have Jalen Hardy with the 200-yard freestyle, 19th place finish. And Adrian Martin, 1 meter men's diving, 18th place finish. And Coach Christopher Roberts. And Mr. Rhodes, if you'd like to come up. Awesome. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, next, the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards. The Scholastic Art and Writing Awards are the nation's longest-running and most prestigious scholarship and recognition program for the young artists and writers in grades 7 through 12. The award serves as a launch pad for furthering students' future success by providing them with access to scholarship programs and workshops, as well as the ability to have their work published and displayed in a regional and national exhibits. The 2023 winners have been announced, including those moving on to the national judging in May. Congratulations to the following students whose artwork was awarded a gold key in the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards contest. These students will be moving on to the national judging. From Alvin High School, we have Houston Gonzalez, Silas Grant, and Ty Aubrey. Great job. If you'd like to come get a picture. Yes, you can
Yes.
get up there. I'm sorry.
Ms. Chauvin.
Miss Chauvin, yes, is their teacher. So. Miss.
Okay, one more. That's awesome. Oh. Congratulations.
And next, from Manville High School, we have Anicel Serrano.
Ms. Satterwhite? Okay.
Yes, Miss Satterwhite is her teacher. And from Shadow Creek High School, we have Caitlin Bryan and Audrey Tran.
Ms. Gardzell?
Yes.
Yes. The teacher. Oh, yes, yes.
Oh,
Audrey?
I'm sorry.
Audrey Train.
Audrey Tran.
Congratulations.
Congratulations also to the 7 Silver Key and the 15 honorable mention winning students as well from those schools. So great job. The 2023 Texas Art Education Youth Month exhibit, the Youth Art Month exhibition is an exhibit that showcases artwork from around the state of Texas in grades K through 12. The exhibit is sponsored by the Texas Art Education Association, and the artwork will be on display in the Bullock, Texas State History Museum during the month of March and will be featured on the museum's website. These pieces also have the opportunity to be showcased in the Governor's Gallery and at the Governor's Business Office. So congratulations to the following students whose artwork will be on display at the Bullock, Texas State History Museum. And it's Skylar Hiley from Nolan Ryan Junior High. And Anitzel Serrano from Manville High School.
Congratulations again. It's awesome.
Yeah,
Get up and come take your picture. Get you a good one this time.
that's right.
Wait for mom. Wait for mom.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Now we're moving on to our staff commendations, and this commendation is about saving a life. So our staff works very hard every single day, and this one is definitely no exception. So on Tuesday, February 16th, a student, Dream Hutchinson, had a medical issue in the drop-off line and required CPR be performed. Savannah Lake's nurse, Dion Prescott, stepped up and performed CPR until the paramedics got there and were able to transport the student to the hospital for further treatment. The EMT said that without the quick reaction from Nurse Prescott, the student might not have survived. Thank you, Nurse Prescott, for protecting our students each and every day. So if you would come up, Miss Dion Prescott, and we also have the family here, and they wanted to come up and be in the pictures. Wow, we really appreciate all that you do for our students, and we are very, very glad, Dream, that you are with us today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you to each and every nurse that's out there, because we know that y'all take care of our kids every day as well. So thank you very much. And that's the end of our commendations.
All right, if y'all want to leave, students, now's the time. We'll wait on y'all.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank y'all
Thank
very
you,
much.
nurse. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Principals, look at all these seats that opened up front.
You win.
There you go.
All right, at this time, we're in the open forum session, and since nobody has signed up, we will move on into presentations. Carol?
So, Board, this evening, we are fortunate to have our Federal and Special Programs Department here, and we'll have Ms. Sarah Chauvin do a presentation about the programs that we offer to our students. As we say, our mission is each and every student, every day, and so I think you'll see this through the presentation. Ms. Chauvin?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I'm Sarah Chauvin. Thank you for the opportunity. I welcome the chance to talk about the great work that we're doing with our students with disabilities in Alvin ISD. I am proud to have had the opportunity to work with the special education department in Alvin for 22 years. And so I have had the chance to see a lot of growth and see a lot of progress with our kids. So thank you so much for this chance. So, just a little picture of where we are right now. So, Alvin has had the opportunity to provide a continuum of services to meet the needs of the wide variety of students that we have. And so, academically, we're able to support our students who are able to spend all of their time within general education classrooms, as well as our students who have more intensive needs and need to have more support in order to make progress. And so for our students who attend kindergarten through 12th grade, we've been able to provide a broad continuum of support. Our students who attend mainstream, it may be as simple as having their case manager be a contact person and monitor their progress, the accommodations they receive. We have some students who receive inclusion support, just a brief check-in, some reteaching, small group support within the classroom. We have at our secondary campuses our co-teach classrooms where we can provide 2 certified teachers to help provide a smaller staff-to-student ratio for students who might need that additional support on a day-to-day basis. And then for our students who might need more intensive supports, we have our pull-out supports through our resource classrooms and our self-contained classroom, our fundamental skills classroom for our students who have an alternative curriculum. Now for our little guys, we have our pre-K inclusion class that has a duly certified teacher who, again, is able to provide a smaller staff-to-student ratio, even smaller than a typical pre-K classroom would have, for students who are building up those ready-to-learn skills and who might need a little bit of support to get them ready for when they begin kindergarten. And then we have our early childhood special education program, formerly known as PPCD, and we still slip up every once in a while and call it PPCD, for our students as young as age 3 who need more help getting ready with their self-help skills and their pre-academic skills. And I'm proud that we're able to provide such a wide variety of support and services for our students and to help them grow academically. Now, for our students whose disability impacts them behaviorally, we are also able to provide a wide variety of support. And I would say this is where Alvin is a little unique because we've had the opportunity to provide this continuum of services for our students who have behavioral needs. So for our students who are receiving TEKS curriculum, our students who ordinarily would be making progress within the general education classroom, maybe with some academic supports. We have our behavioral supports that might range from implementing a behavior intervention plan that is individually tailored based on how a student's disability is impacting them within the classroom. We have what's called PASS, or Positive Approach to Student Success. That is an extra layer of support for students who are attending more inclusive settings, where we have a teacher and a paraprofessional that serve as a coach to be able to guide students through some of those situations where they're building their behavioral skills. Again, with that goal of you're within your school environment, you're getting those supports. For our students who have more significant needs, we do have some self-contained programs that are available. And again, I say they're self-contained. Our students start off spending the majority of their day within these classroom programs with the goal of building their skills so that they can return to more inclusive settings. So for our students on the autism spectrum, we have a program called ASD, or Acquiring Social Development, that really focuses on building those social communication skills that will help our students on the autism spectrum be more confident and be able to access those opportunities with their peers within the general education setting. And then we have our DBC, or our district behavior class, which is for our students who, because of their disabilities, have some behaviors that could present a safety risk, whether it is, towards others or towards themselves. And so they need very intensive support, especially towards their beginning times in the program, as their teachers work with them to help build their coping skills and to build their confidence in being able to cope with some of the emotional challenges that come with their disabilities. For our students who receive alternative curriculum, a fairly new program we have in our district is called the Structured Learning Class, or SLC. So this is a class for our students that in previous years we may have had to make a recommendation for them to be served in a program outside of our district or an out-of-district placement. But because we now have this opportunity to have our SLC, which is a very small staff-to-student ratio, a very structured program, we're able to address those needs of students who have kind of coexisting disabilities, students who have cognitive disabilities that lead to them needing that very intensive alternative curriculum, as well as having those behavioral challenges that present a safety risk to themselves or to other students if they're attending a more traditional fundamental skills program. In addition to our instructional services, we have a wide variety of related services. And we have an extremely talented team of related service providers that meet other needs, of our students. Anything from speech therapy and occupational therapy, physical therapy, to some ones that are not commonly thought of, music therapy, our in-home parent training that provides some support for students and families within their home setting and their community settings to serve the whole student. Our vision services for our students with vision impairments, our homebound services for students who have significant health issues that lead to the need for them to receive services within the home setting. Now the data. So we love data in special education, and this gives an idea of our trends. And much like our district, Alvin ISD's special education program continues to grow. We've got an upward trend. As of February, we serve 4,102 students within our special education program. So almost 2,000 more. We're getting close to that 2,000 more mark than we were back in 2018, 2019. So there are a couple of years where you might notice that growth was a little bit steeper. Back between 18, 19, 19, 20, we saw a considerable amount of growth related to some corrective actions that TEA had recommended for the state following some questions about whether we were not identifying students properly in Texas for special education. And as a result, as you'll see on another slide, we took we began evaluating additional students, making sure that we had truly identified the students that needed that support. Another spike you'll notice is a more recent spike. The past couple of years, there has been some changes with regards to students who are identified with dyslexia. And so as a result, what was typically a process of identification through our 504 programming has shifted and has become a process that we evaluate through special education. And so as a result, we're seeing an increase in the number of students that were identified as having specific learning disabilities related to that condition of dyslexia. On the next slide, I put down the percentages because this was one of the issues that was identified by the Houston Chronicle several years back with the question of our districts purposely under-identifying students. And you may remember that 8% cap that was advertised. I will say we've never met the 8% cap. Like the lowest we've been during this 5-year period was 10.5%. And then, that it has continued to increase with our growth. So we're now at 13.6% of our student population is receiving special education services in our district. So related to that is our child find numbers. And child find is that process that we are required to follow to identify students within our community. Most of the students are students who are enrolled in Alvin ISD, but we also are responsible for trying to identify students who attend homeschool and private school who may have a disability and may have a need for special education services. So the first number, the orange column, are the number of students that were tested by our evaluation staff in each year. So those spikes that I mentioned where we had those years where we had a larger amount of growth than what we typically would have. If you look at 18-19, that is the largest number of students that we evaluated during that school year. And then 21-22, that second spike, very similar numbers as far as the number of students that we evaluated those school years. And so typically, we would level out. We would be around the 500, 650 students that we would evaluate for initial evaluations in each school year. But those years were exceptional based on those reasons. The darker reddish line are the number of students who qualified for special education services. And we want those to be close together because then that means we're finding the students who have a disability and we are efficient with our staff. We have evaluation staff members who work diligently to make sure that we meet best practices with our evaluations. And so the more students that we evaluate that qualify, that means that we are using their time wisely and we're using that resource wisely. This year so far, we've evaluated 410 students. And so we are on track with the rest of this school year to be more aligned with what we would expect between that 500-600 student range for our initial evaluations. And the vast majority of the students have met eligibility for special education services. So we are finding the kids that we need to find so that we can provide them services that they need to make progress. So more information I wanted to share were some of the accountability or some of the assessments that we've reported to the Texas Education Agency. Last school year, we had the opportunity for our cyclical review. This is a fairly new process with TEA, and it's on a 6-year cycle. We were on the 3rd round of the cyclical review, and they focused on 7 priority areas. So they did a policy review where they looked at our district policies and procedures, as well as a desk review where they randomly selected student audit folders and checked to make sure that we had documentation that we were following the policies and procedures consistent with special education law. And as you can see, we were found to be 100% compliant. So some strength areas that they found, some areas of success that they celebrated with us were some of the systems that we had in place for documentation of students' strengths and needs in order to complete what's called in our language the PLAF, the present levels of academic and functional performance. fancy way of saying we're able to identify what our kids are doing well and what their areas of need are. We're able to develop those individualized plans to meet those student needs. And then again, we've got those systems in place to support our compliance with IDEA. So that was a big celebration in our department. We will have that cyclical review again in now 5 years and hope to have the same results. On a more consistent basis, we get information about our special education programming through our results-driven accountability. And so this year, we had improvement in this area as well. For the 2021 school year, our special education determination level was a 2, which indicated that there were some areas that we needed to develop a strategic support plan and report progress on that plan to TEA. At the end of our strategic support plan, we met our required improvement in the areas of our early childhood participation in inclusive settings and our disciplinary rate. So we were able to show that with the procedures that we have in place, we're able to get more of our 3 to 5-year-olds participating in those general education pre-K programs, and we are able to monitor and provide appropriate discipline to our students with disabilities. We also showed improvement with our STAR, especially in our grades 3 through 8, and we are very proud of that. One area that we're still working on is our disproportionality with regards to students who are Asian and identified with the condition of autism. And this has been something we've been working on for several years, and it's a little bit difficult because it's a double-edged sword. Like, we don't want to have that disproportionality, but we also want to meet our obligation to provide services to students who need them. And so we feel confident after reviewing our evaluations, reviewing the individual plans for the students who meet that criteria, that we've correctly identified those students and we're providing them what they need to make progress. So we're just continuing to look at trends, and ultimately we want to make sure we do what is right for kids. And so we'll just continue to hope we can make progress in that area. Some of the trends we have, I included the multi-year to show some of our progress, and as well as the state comparison. Our district is in alignment with the state results for the RDA with regards to our 3 through 8 STAR results. 2020, they didn't report because of COVID, and 2021, we saw a little bit of a dip in those percentages of students who, and they measure looking at approaches and higher. So we saw a little bit of that COVID dip, but we're regaining and we're getting closer to where we need to be with regards to how our students are performing on those state assessments across subject areas. For our STAR EOCs, again, there are some areas where we have had some struggles, and particularly that post-COVID dip, but we're fairly close to the state. When I talk about our focuses as we're moving into the future, this is an area that we're going to put some things in place to try to continue to grow our students and to get them closer to where we would like for them to be. A glow in this is our graduation rate. We have consistently, since 2019 and earlier than that, had a higher special education graduation rate than the state level. So we are able to support our students to complete high school and graduate and get their diplomas, which is something I'm very proud of. And then the final area I put in there is our participation in general education. This is also something I'm pretty proud of because we want our students to have access to the general education setting and to their grade level curriculum. Having that access makes a big difference. And if you look at our information, you'll see that big jump in our inclusive percentage in early childhood from 14.3% in 2021 up to 22.5%. For our students who are kinder to 12th, the majority of them are also receiving their services within general education settings for the most of the time. We're kind of in the high 60s, approaching 70% of our students receiving their instruction within inclusive settings in our district. Another area of assessment that is relatively new is the TEA self-assessment. And we complete this every year looking at identified areas with TEA. And up to this year, there have been 7 focus areas. They give us a rubric and we collect documentation to show how we are meeting the items on that rubric. Now in 2023, that will go from 7 focus areas to 23 focus areas. So we'll be able to do a much deeper dive into how we're doing in special education. So in the focus areas that we had, we were overall proficient in all areas. The items that were bolded were areas where our district was exemplary, where we were able to meet those rubric standards that we are providing exemplary services in those areas. I will say the biggest difference in between proficient and exemplary is looking at kind of building the toolbox for general educators and building the tools that they have for inclusive practices. And so again, you'll see as I share some of our focus areas for the future, that will be a big part of it. So I'm anticipating as we're completing our self-assessment for 2023, in all 23 of those areas, that we will be able to have many more areas where we can confidently say Alvin ISD is providing exemplary services for our students in special education. So that brings us to the future. Kind of based on all of that information, we came up with our own IEP goals or our own focus areas where we want to continue to grow in our department. Kind of at the very top of that is determining our appropriately specially designed instruction using data-based decision making. Really looking at the information that we have available and using that data to make sure that we are making the best decisions for our students. So in order to be able to do that, we are doing ongoing data reviews with our teachers, our coordinators, our meeting with campus staff to look at some of our accountability information that we have gotten from RDA. Some of our information about least restrictive environment or how are we doing with continuing to build our students' participation in general education settings. And then looking at student progress and making sure that we don't lose sight of our individual students. And are they meeting their goals? Are they continuing to move forward and close those gaps that might be impacting how they're progressing within general education? We're also focusing on effective implementation of specially designed instruction. We want to make sure that our teachers have the tools to be able to provide the supports that are outlined in each student's education plan. We're doing that through visiting classrooms. We have our instructional specialists providing ongoing coaching and feedback and support to our teachers, particularly our new teachers who we're building them up within the profession. We are also doing a lot of professional learning. So we've been working with our special education teachers throughout the school year and planning our summer professional learning to continue to build the skills that they have to use data to make good instructional decisions for students. And then this summer, we are going to have the opportunity to do professional learning with our general education teachers, to be able to equip them to have that confidence that they can meet these students' needs within the classroom and help increase their access to the general education curriculum. Another focus area we have is our positive parent and school collaboration. Through our ongoing work with our Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, our CPAC, we have gotten their input and really focused on building systems of communication that meet their needs, and kind of giving teachers feedback and support of how they can build those systems of communication while maintaining their focus on where it needs to be, which is the instruction that they're providing students. We're also working on building those systems to continue to encourage parent participation in the process. And that starts from the very beginning when we're making a referral and we're explaining to parents, this is what special education is about. This is what this process will look like from the beginning of the process to when your child graduates and goes into post-secondary options. We're offering a variety of methods that parents can participate in art committee meetings so that they are able to be present and have that understanding of the recommendations that we're making for their children. This was one of the benefits of COVID, is the virtual meeting, and that has allowed many of our parents who otherwise were struggling to be able to attend their children's meetings that we have and be a part of that process, to become active in that. And then we're building our community collaboration. We partnered and were able to participate in Alvin ISD's Parent University trainings, be able to provide some information to parents about supports that students receive through multi-tiered systems of support, and then the referral process. We've also provided some trainings related to supporting behavioral needs, and in the past we've also provided parent trainings related to building speech and communication supports within the home. And then we are continuing to build our collaboration with local universities. For years, we've offered practicum experiences and internships with our universities to try to grow our own within our district. I can say I've benefited from this. I came to Alvin ISD as a LSSP intern with University of Houston Clear Lake, and have continued to grow, and the majority of our licensed specialists in school psychology have come to us as interns and have decided to stay past their internship because of the experience that they've had in Alvin ISD. And then we're also partnering with them to provide professional learning opportunities. We've had some training focused in the area of behavior provided to our staff members from University of Houston Clear Lake, and we're working with HBU and University of Houston Victoria to continue to build options for professional learning for our staff. So we're excited to see what's to come in the future, and excited to implement some of the plans that we're making to support student growth. And I can't end without a big shout out to our Teachers of the Year, our Rookies of the Year, and our Paraprofessionals of the Year. We were so excited as campuses were making these announcements, and so proud that we had so many of our special education teachers and paraprofessionals represented, and across our different programs. To me, that is just a sign of the quality that we have in Alvin ISD and the hard work that they're doing every day to make sure that these students are getting what they need to be successful. So had to end with that because we're definitely so happy to have them on our team.
Thank you,
Anybody have any
Sarah.
questions?
Anybody have
do.
any questions?
So for the SLC campuses, for the students, does that replace the students going to Avondale or similar placements?
We have found that we have been able to significantly reduce the placements. When I first started as a coordinator with the department, we had about 20 students that were placed in out-of-district placements. Currently, we have 5 students placed in out-of-district placements, and we're working on transition plans for 2 of those students to be able to return to Alvin ISD campuses. So while it doesn't completely replace that, it has made a huge impact on our ability to meet our students' needs on our campuses.
I love that y'all have implemented that. To keep a student on their home campus or within their home district is really important, so I really appreciate y'all doing that. So another question, what methods does Alvin ISD use for child find nowadays?
Well, we have reached out, we have good relationships with our private schools in the area, and we do an annual meeting where we invite our homeschool and our private school families to receive information about what services are available. And I receive notification whenever a student withdraws for homeschool or private school, so we can make sure that they receive that. One of our goals is to do more outreach with our daycares. And we do some of that boots on the ground informally with our staff, but kind of getting more formal in reaching out to our daycares in the area to give them information and offer some training to them on how they can meet the needs of students. And then we have a partnership with our local ECI, or Early Childhood Intervention, where we're able to work with them to do early childhood assessments and get student services if they need them as soon as possible.
My hats off to y'all for having a partnership with the Parent U trainings. That's just invaluable for the families to feel supported and get the additional needs, especially just understanding the special ed process from assessment to enrollment. That's wonderful. So
It is a bear. I mean, 22 years, and every once in a while, I learn something new. And so being able to have parents feel empowered and feel like, okay, when I come to this meeting where there are 5 people and 4 of them are school people, like, I want for them to have some confidence and feel like they have some understanding of what's happening.
some prior knowledge, that's wonderful. Thank y'all for doing that.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
Yeah, this was very informative. Thank you. And I appreciate everything that you all do. I know we do. And particularly the numbers the data that you gave us in relation to the numbers. I know a lot of what we do is measured around us compared to the state, but also realize there's a lot of bottom dwellers in the state. How are we performing versus similar districts of our size?
I don't have the hard numbers on that this evening. I would say we're comparable to other districts in the area. We do a lot of collaboration within our region and with our districts that are in our area, and we're performing comparable to those districts as well.
Oh, I was just going to say, thank you for pointing out, or thank you for continuing the Zoom meetings for parents. It was a benefit of COVID.
Absolutely.
We sure want them involved. That can only lead to happy endings for everybody. So thank you for
Absolutely.
doing
And of
that.
course, our preference is face-to-face because we want to have people there and build those relationships. But the Zoom is better than the phone because previously it was the phone. And if anybody has participated in a phone meeting, that is just difficult. At least with the Zoom, Google Meets, we can, have faces and we can have more of that interaction with our families.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Anybody else?
I have a couple of comments. No one else has. So one of the things we're working on, Dr. Bruton, Ms. Chauvin are working with directors from 2 other school districts. This actually came up probably a year ago. One of the school districts had reached out, and our directors had worked together collaboratively to look at what options for the most severe discipline students, rather than placing them at Avondale or Shiloh, what could we do? And one of the districts stepped up and said they had a facility that we could possibly do a co-op like we do Deaf Ed. And so they have been working hard with the 2 other directors The superintendents of those two districts and myself have met. We're meeting again, I believe, Thursday. This Thursday, the superintendents are meeting to try to finalize some of those. So I'll be bringing you more information. But basically what it would be is that this behavior co-op would have like 3 positions for each district for the most severe. Because as you know, TEA basically is closed down. Avondale and Shiloh is on a freeze. So there's not a lot of options for schools for placement for the most severe behavior. So we're looking for options, and kudos to Dr. Bruton and Ms. Chauvin for working with the other directors to come up with a solution for us. Even though it's probably not as many spots as the 3 districts would want, it's a start. And so I know the state has got an eye on us because we've received this grant. We went together with these other 2 districts to apply for the grant, and we've received the grant. Now we just are in the process of developing it. And so more info to come on that. And then Trustee Johnson, we will get you those numbers in comparison to surrounding districts. We'll work on that. I do know, just speaking with my colleagues, that Alvin ISD offers more specialized programs than any other surrounding district. We were the first to offer an ASD program for our students. We were the first to offer a DBC, district behavior, and now we're the first for the SLC. So we're continually looking for innovative ways to serve each child. The state continues with the STAR accountability even for our most severe students who, as Trustee Harris, you work closely with several of our people that are served by public schools. And you know that I've always said this, I don't believe that we do a service through our accountability system for our special ed students. We need a better system for them to meet their needs. But you know, we've tried, and hopefully we'll get something here pretty soon, but we will get that information. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Before we go to the next presentation, can we recognize one student that came in a little later? It was the student that for the Texas Art Education Youth Art Month exhibit. The student's artwork will be displayed at the Bob Bullock Texas State History Museum, and that student is Skylar Higley from Nolan Ryan Junior High School. So Skylar, if you want to come up. We saw you come in and we had already gotten past that. Were you playing volleyball? Yes. So Trustee Scott is going to present you, and turn around, get a picture. Mom and Dad, do y'all want to take a picture? Anybody? We'll get you a picture or have it. Principal Green is, oh, here comes Mom. No, don't apologize. Thank you. Congratulations, Skylar. Thank you for waiting.
All right, next we'll have a presentation on Alvin ISD strategic plan.
So board, from November 2022 through March of 2023, Alvin ISD has been developing a strategic plan in order to effectively plan for the future of the district. Tonight, an overview of the strategic planning process as well as the plan on a page will be presented for consideration as an agenda item later. And we have Dr. Jennifer Valdez, who facilitated the process for us and was kind of our point person for contact throughout the process with Into Learning, as well as with our action team leaders. So Dr. Valdez.
Good evening. So I'm honored and excited to share the process that we used to develop this plan. I represent one of many stakeholders that were involved in this process, a lot that are sitting right here in the room with us. We were able to engage with stakeholders over the last 4 months in a very thorough and collaborative type process. So the strategic plan utilized several elements. Starting with you, our Board of Trustees, you reviewed and revised our district beliefs, vision, and mission. Based on staff feedback, you created and committed to 5 pillars or priority areas that will guide our work over the next 3 to 5 years. Next, a strategic plan team used those pillars along with staff feedback to develop specific objectives and strategies.
Those were then shared with action teams to develop specific action plans. And so if you approve the strategic plan, the next steps will be implementation and then also accountability of the action plans as led or directed by Superintendent Nelson. This is the timeline of the process thus far using those elements I just shared. There was a board workshop held in November to begin the process of strategic planning. Prior to that workshop, feedback was requested from staff members across the district. They were asked to give feedback on 4 areas: what they value about Alvin ISD, what are students' needs for their futures beyond graduation, what they would like to see the district develop into over the next 3 to 5 years, and what could derail the district's efforts if we don't pay attention to it. Following the board workshop was a retreat. This was with the strategic planning team. On that team, we had high school students, teachers, principals, district leadership team members, parents, community members. I feel like we had a very good representation of stakeholders across the district on our strategic planning team. From that, we also developed action team leaders. That was the next step. They were trained in December. Many of those leaders are our principals. A couple of them were district administrators. The action teams worked from January through February, about a 6-week period. And then a final retreat back with that strategic planning team was held a couple weeks ago. And at that retreat, each of the action team leaders presented their plan, and it was approved. Each of them were approved by that larger team. And then that brings us to tonight to share the plan with you and ask for approval. So there are approximately 175 school personnel, students, parents, community members involved in the process. They were involved anywhere from doing pre-work or the feedback I shared a minute ago, those 4 questions, to being on a strategic planning team, to possibly being on an action team. So the 5 pillars that were created by you guys, our school board, are the pillars or priority areas of teaching and learning, our team, finance and operations, safety and care wellness, and communications and stakeholder engagement. So as I had mentioned, we had several principals and a few of our district leaders who were action team leaders, and they're listed here on this slide. But I just want to mention that lots of after hours and long discussions happen in their action team meetings. I know just from, what many of them shared with me, they got into some really, really strong conversations about the direction of the district and hopes and dreams and where people would like to see us go. So again, I just really want to praise our principals. If they weren't a leader, they were all on a team and just contributed a lot of time to the process. And so our leaders were, for teaching and learning, Diane Peltier, Beth Lawson, and Shandar Hobbs. For our team, Ashley Marquez and Bridget Landry. For finance and operations, Victoria Kwan and Lisa Hicks. For safety and care wellness, Roman Nieto and Fulvia Shaw. And for communications and stakeholder engagement, Crystal Hawks and Cammie Day. So from their work on the action teams, 19 action plans were produced. And as I mentioned, those were approved by the strategic team just a couple of weeks ago. And the idea is that they will be implemented over the next 3 to 5 years. So I know this is small on the screen, but you have the bigger version, I believe, at your area. So this is basically the plan on a page. It's a little deceiving because a lot more work, right, than just this certainly has gone into it. But this is just kind of that high-level view that shows from the pillars to the objectives to the strategies to the actual action plans. So what are the next steps? Us coming to you tonight for approval of the plan is the next step. After that, our superintendent, Nelson, will assign the year that each of these plans are to begin. With 19 action plans, we want to set ourselves up for success, so we know we're not going to start all of them this next year. So we'll work strategically to determine which ones that we will. Our Superintendent Nelson will also assign owners of each action plan. She will determine the accountability and evaluation system. So obviously that part's not shown on here yet. The owners of each of these teams will work with even a broader group of stakeholders to determine what are we going to measure for effectiveness? How are we going to know if this is our action plan that we've done it and it's making a difference with kids? So those things are to be determined as we continue to move forward. And then we would want our action plan to become part of our district and campus plans. In other words, we don't want all these separate improvement plans out there. We want them all to align so that we're making sure that we're moving in a direction that's best for the district. And then we'll have annual updates, most likely each spring with that strategic planning team. So again, we're just extremely proud and appreciative to all the time, effort that went into putting this together. And I hope that it will be a point of pride for you guys too, because this is everybody's plan. This is the district's plan.
Jennifer, I've got a question. You know, we said superintendent assigns owner of each action plan.
Yeah.
And you said each owner will have their team. How do they pick their team?
So, for example, teaching and learning. One of the action plans is creating a personalized plan to address district, campus, and individual staff needs. And so, once an owner is picked for that, they will try to get a variety of people to help with it. It will be a lot of district level people, you know, just because these type things are our daily work anyway. But we'll have to get teacher voice, of course, student voice when we need. A similar process that we did throughout the retreat and getting different stakeholders. But they'll choose them just in order to get a variety of different voices to be a part of it.
So it won't be from, one team won't be totally from one school, it'll be throughout?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Right.
So, for instance, Trustee Humber, your name went all of a sudden. I'm just looking down, I saw refine existing safety systems to address ever-changing needs while ensuring all stakeholders are informed. That's a strategy, right, that falls under the objective, continually develop a safe learning environment for all members of our school community, which falls under safety and care wellness. Well, then it breaks down to, as a plan, implement a student identification / multi-use badge policy at all campuses. And I believe we received a question from Trustee Scheibel when we sent it out and said, don't we use badges or IDs at some of the campuses? And so my response was, and I wasn't in this action team that discussed it, but they shared it at our retreat a couple of weeks ago to the large group. What they're doing is, yes, some of our campuses have a student photo ID right now, but how is it being enforced? Is it consistent? And what is the use for it? We know the state has a lot of safety requirements coming down on us. We're trying to get ahead of this. So we have a team right now, Don Rabelais, our Director of Safety, Chad Fontenot, some of our officers, Mr. Gesh, some of his teams, Dr. Martinez in the teaching and learning area, academics area that works closely with all of our secondary principals. We then would say, okay, here's the information we receive. There's lots of different software, apps, things that, so they're doing some research. Then they're going to bring that to those principals and, like Dr. Martinez, how is this going to work on campus? What does this look like? Then we go to finance, and Dr. Combs and myself sit down, and my deputies, and we say, can we afford this? Where are we going to get most bang for our buck? And then what is the ID going to be used for? Is it only to identify the student? Are they going to be able to swipe for their lunch? Are they going to be able to swipe to get on the bus? There's just so much research to do out there, but we want to, once we implement a plan with a system, is we want to be consistent with it. We want to be fiscally responsible because there's so much out there right now. But we also have to have input from our principals on campus because they're going to be the ones who it ultimately falls on to make sure that it's implemented to its fidelity. We don't want to just rush into something. So that may be a multi-year implementation. We may start out with just our high schools. So maybe 25% of our schools out of 33 schools. And then we go to, I don't know. That will be the decision of that team once they get into the work. Does that make sense? Okay. That's just a simple example. So each one gets deeper and deeper depending on what the needs are. Professional learning is a big one, and I think Ms. Chauvin talked about it tonight with our special ed teachers. What are the needs of our teachers and our general ed teachers when it comes to serving our special ed students? So we have to look individually at each area and what the needs are there. Just an example.
So let me ask you, using safety as an example, and this kind of goes off of the conversation we had last week. So let's say 4.1, 4.1.2, and we did all four of those, and we had ways of measuring them, and over 3 years, they all came out great. What's the key safety performance indicator that will have improved as a result of these strategies and action plans? And for me, that's what I'm not seeing in each of these areas. Is even so let's say it's academics. We all want to see our school district be academically stronger in 3 years than it is today.
Right.
So if we implement these four actions and against these three strategies, what is that key academic indicator, or more than one, whatever it is, that have improved because all four of these were successfully implemented?
Right.
I like the plan, but for me, that's what's missing. It's where are we going?
And so I think part of that is that we're not at that stage yet, right? So this was the first part of the process. The next piece, when these owners take kind of hold of these areas, they'll work with folks to determine just those things. I know for the academic department, we have performance objectives that we have to have for the state. We have House Bill 3 goals. We would expect those things to improve if we're doing these things in this strategic plan. Because ultimately, everything that was put in this plan had to be put there with a measure of they will all increase student success, even if they're an operational type item. So I wouldn't want to take away from work that's coming forward by giving you exact answer on what those measurements would be for academics or safety.
Mr. Guest, you want to?
Like we talked about this, talking about the committee's gonna work through it, but as the discussions come up, there's some metrics we have that we're not really using right now. Talking back specifically about safety and security. We've done, Don, approximately this year, 4,000 walkthroughs on campuses on our weekly walkthroughs, not that security data. One of those things is badges on staff. So if it's the badge information, how do we take something that we already do and use it to create a metric that shows is it being implemented with fidelity? Number of students on buses with correct drop-offs or on-time drop-offs, if that's a multifunction of the badge, what would our goal be? And we have metrics that we use operationally, on-time routes, that number of buses down and everything like that we can take those and tweak them and apply them to this and bring it out as a scorecard in that. But until we sit down as a committee and sort of look, what are the relevant factors in those scorecards that are not just minutia, but actually are relevant data that we can share with you as a board and with the public, then over the next, I'd say 3 to 6 months, we'll have an idea of what those indicators are to set those goals out, whether it's a percentage mark or an actual raw number mark as we go through in each one of those areas. Whether it's teacher retention, safety and security, looking at that, number of visits of students or faculty into mental health and how that increases or decreases over the time for that piece, or just time on task of workflow through either the purchasing office or the business office on the other side of that function. So reflection coming out of this activity. So,
No, and that's helpful, and frankly, that's the half that I need.
Yeah.
So, like, when I look at teaching and, let me do it without the Steve. When I look at teaching and learning, right? Well, let's say you ultimately say, well, those House Bill 3 metrics, we can improve those by 2% over 3 years. And I'd say, well, I don't know, I don't think that's, we come up with different strategies and actions, right? So for me, it's hard to approve a plan when I don't know where we're going.
Well, and maybe I might be wrong on this, but on that, we won't know where we're going until this team meets, the owners meet, and their team decides, hey, we've got these deals, we're gonna find out what the action are. And that may take 3 months, 6 months. It's not gonna be tomorrow we know the answer on that, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Well,
So,
go ahead.
no, you got it, go, you got it.
No, I'm gonna let you. 'Cause-
Well, I don't want to change subject, but speaking to that, the work that is involved, like and don't take this the wrong way. Like, I know this took a lot of work, and I know this is not indicative of all of the fly sheets and every man hour spent to get down to this. But when I look at this is a lot. Like, this is work. And when I look out at the people that have to do this work, my concern is that, like, all of this is not broken, I don't think, right? Like, all of this is not broken. But we're going to be asking people to spend time and come up with this data so that we can get measurables on top of everything that they're already being asked to do. And we're opening additional schools, and we're asking people they're going to have to cook dinner with groceries that they didn't buy. You know what I mean? Like, that's my concern when we look at this. I don't want to work us to death and strategize us to death to a point where we just come up checking a box.
I think, though, to your point, I think many of the measurables will be things we are already measuring. I know in the academic department, y'all get quarterly reports from us. You see all the data. We wouldn't want to work separately from some of those good systems we have in place to measure effectiveness. As Mr. Guest mentioned, they have some areas that they're not really utilizing right now that they could be utilizing for data or utilizing more. And so I don't think finding that measurement piece is going to be as difficult as we might think it would be.
Well, and I think Trustee Johnson, like you were saying, we have measurable stuff. Like Dr. Valdez said, we give y'all a lot of academic, I think, quarterly data that shows we are monitoring. You can ask our leaders, anyone here, your mid-year reviews, you're constantly tracking your students. And to Trustee Selsky's question of what's the outcome is student success. We want our kids to show growth. And so we look at each and every child, and are they showing growth? And probably 99% of you have data walls, and you track each and every child. So there's measurable data that we do on a daily basis, a weekly basis. We have teams, like Trustee Johnson said, that are working hard for our students each day. So tying it together, everyone, I gave y'all it's 71 pages, but our district improvement plan that our team, this is the administrative team, works on this, and Mr. Shaw leads the measurement piece of it. So quarterly, each area on my cabinet has to go in and their departments and update our district improvement plan. And I just gave you a sampling. So there's a percentage of where we are on what we're measuring. But then this drives their campus improvement plans. So they have a team on their campuses that get together once they get their data, their STAR scores, their interim scores, their whatever formative assessments they need, and they develop based on their needs, what their needs assessment is, and then develop their campus plans. And they have
identified as metrics that they need to improve upon, and it has a direct correlation with where we're going in the strategic plan.
I would say, as Dr. Valdez pointed out, the work that went into it, there's nothing that came out of these action plan areas that is anything that's a major shift and a new addition to the data. But going back to research on effective implementation and success
Right, and I can appreciate that there's a level of synergy that everyone feels, because again, we don't have to do the work, right? We suggest it, we make, we put thoughts out there, and it ends up with this. And so, correct me if I'm wrong on this. So when I look at this and I look at safety and security, like, I feel like we're doing a great job. Every time I pull a door on a school campus, it's locked. Like, it's doing a great job.
And we've had very clear
So-
audits lately. I mean, we've
Yeah.
had all our audits
But-
that's a measurement. We've gotten,
In my world
up.
that I deal with when I look at numbers and I look at, trying to improve my staff's metrics or my team's metrics, like, we have to have measurables, right? And so when I look at things from a security standpoint, a safety standpoint, the thing that jumps off the page with the information that we get that's not necessarily tied to this, but this is where we didn't get to do it as much last week for various reasons. But, when I look at our call for service, I look at our arrest rates, I look at our detention numbers, like, that's what I want to see improve. You know what I mean? Like so when I see 4.1.2, like, in my brain, that's a lot. But when I see 500 service calls in the shortest month of the year, how do we improve that? Right? Like, what in this plan is going to help us get to that? And that's just one example, but that's what I'm trying to say. I don't want us to get caught up in, because we do a lot of things great. Like, y'all do a lot of things very, very good. And so I don't want us to get caught up in the weeds of checking boxes, right? And let's move the needle on things that I think can improve student success, like keeping them in class.
So one of the things this past year that was implemented, and our leaders can attest to this, was our academic teams developed what we call walkthroughs. And they set a standard of how many walkthroughs each administrator on campus was to get into classrooms. Well, it wasn't just go in there because they do observations. There was a purpose. So they go in and they're looking for small group instruction, which aligns to professional development that our staff has had. They look at also that small group instruction and 7 steps, which our staff has been trained on. So when they're going through the walkthroughs, they're looking for implementation of fidelity of those 2 instructional strategies that our staff has gotten through professional learning, right? And then Ms. Peltier and Dr. Martinez run the data because they put it into a system that tells us how many of our teachers are doing small group instruction, how many of our teachers are using 7 steps. Then they take that data and they correlate it to how are the students' success in that classroom. And if the numbers are, let's just use Ms. Stinger sitting there at Brothers. If she has one teacher who's excelling in her scores, her kids are excelling, they're comparable classes, you're not looking at a GT class and a special ed class, but they're comparable. Why is this teacher's scores higher than this teacher? Well, let's go back and look at the walkthrough data. So is this teacher implementing those strategies they learned through professional learning to fidelity than the other? I mean, there's direct correlations between things, but that's not data we can put on a page and show you. The walkthrough data is to drive instruction, to drive future professional development. Let's say there's no success or we're going the wrong way. Well, then what else is out there that's best research practices that we can send our staff to? Professional learning with Solution Tree, we've gotten to where we were training all of our teachers in PLC training with Solution. So we look at research-based stuff. It's just hard to pinpoint one thing. I'm just giving examples of, we have so many data points in education that it's hard to narrow it to one thing. And that's what the state wants us to do. They want to grade us A through F. And we know that we do so much more for kids beyond that one data point. But we use that data point, right? We're all about accountability. So student success, student progress. I know through our performance objectives in House Bill 3, which is state-led, that we do say we want to go from this percent to this percent. And so I don't know if that's helped or if that's muddied the waters, but there's just so much that we measure and so much data that we gather in the educational setting that There's not just one data point that measures everything.
So using House Bill 3 as an example, do we feel that we could say if we implement these strategies and actions as is, and they all deliver, then those House Bill 3 indicators will go from X to Y over 3 years?
Yes.
I think so. I think that's kind of what we're measuring now.
I'm going to say yes, because that's a major indicator for us. And if we're doing these things and an indicator like that is not improving, we're doing the wrong things.
So, and I think that's great. So for me, I would just, for each one of these, I would just see what's that indicator that tells me that we chose the right strategies and action plans.
Right.
So in 3 years, there was an improvement.
Right, so, but under each action plan, there could be multiple things we do. So there wouldn't be one measure indicator, correct? Am I saying that correctly?
Right, and I mean, even for like professional learning, if you read some of these action plans, you're going to have a baseline too that we start with. How many teachers have this training? How many need it? Over the course of how many, which year do we expect them to get it in their teaching career? So we'll have some baseline to just measure those kind of numbers too, which that's not directly student success, I understand, but the more they're trained and highly qualified in best practices, then again, we would expect those indicators we already measure to improve.
And I think that's helpful for me. But I didn't know that before this conversation, that the House Bill 3 was could be attached to teaching and learning as something that will improve a certain amount. And I'm assuming you know what the amount is, although I don't, what will go up because of this. So if somebody could just help me understand what they are for each of these, then I feel like I'd be approving a plan, not just actions that will go somewhere, but where it's going to go and I don't.
So I just wanted to share just what a community member shared with me. It was a really, really strong message, and it's such kudos to our campuses and to our leadership. He said the most powerful part of the two-day retreats was the students' voices and hearing them of what their experiences were in Alvin ISD and how they have seen themselves grow academically as well as personally, and how they feel like they're really well-rounded and ready to go out and join the workforce or go into college. And to hear that and to know that's our ultimate goal, it's a kudos to all of our principals and our administration of what we've done and where we're headed to next. So
Absolutely.
to hear that and for the community to share that was very powerful.
Good. I think one more thing just to share is I think having this plan just puts it at the forefront for our community, all of our stakeholders involved, what our values are, right? Because that's where those initial 5 categories came from. We asked for feedback. What do you think we're doing well? What direction do we need to go? And from that, you guys said these 5 things are what we're going to value as a school district. And so I think it just, over the next few years, it just keeps bringing us back to what our stakeholders told us they value.
And not all 19 will be implemented in 23, 24. So some of them will not even be started until 24 or 25. So they won't even be worked on really until
Right.
that time.
One more illustration. Sorry, I know y'all are tired. I appreciate y'all. So, and then I'm going to try to make this as elementary as possible for an illustration here. Let's see. And I guess, tell me how this fits in this plan as I explain it, because I think we already do it. I know we already do it, but I want to make sure I'm interpreting everything right. So we have a kid that perpetually or habitually late to school, right? Like just late, attendance issues, conduct issues, right? And let's say parent is not involved, right? In anything, the kid is not involved. Let's take a middle school kid because we've got extracurricular activity. So kid is not involved in anything. Kid is late to school. Kid is not really engaged. Parent is not involved. When we say that's developed with the parents, there's something on here about community stakeholders and build that trust, enhance community trust, right? Have we looked at that part of the process of what we currently do and are going to apply it to this to make sure we don't, because kids don't get to choose where they live. They don't get to choose the schools that we build. They don't get to choose, a lot. But they depend on us to guide them. So with that scenario, are we tracking that, and are we trying to improve that metric within this plan?
I believe so. I believe there's a few areas probably it would. One, I would say, is that 1.3.2, to be specific, provide all students with a broad range of learning experiences. One thing we know is that even with all of the opportunities we have for students in Alvin ISD, we still have kids that we haven't tapped into.
Correct.
That shows because of attendance and things like not getting to school. So what are those things? And we believe that through this and coming up with some really good steps to go with it, we're going to find those things. I know one thing with working with our CTE department, we have something coming, which I think Superintendent Nelson Dangle did a little bit at the board workshop. So I don't want to say what it is. I'm going to keep dangling it. But it's just something we feel like we know some kids that aren't really plugged into anything that interests them right now. This is going to be one thing I think that they will be. So, I mean, that's one example, I think, of what you're asking.
Yeah, yep. And then be clear, like, this is great. Like, y'all don't, I'm not gonna get on Facebook tonight and say, oh my God. It's just no, this is great work. I just want to make sure, like, we don't get caught,
Right.
focusing on things that we already do great.
So I may be thinking of this wrong, but I'm an Aggie, so you'll
Watch it.
allowed. So I guess I'm kind of thinking about the strategic plan as kind of almost the top of the pyramid, and then under that, the district improvement plan and then
Yep.
the campus improvement plans. Is that a reasonable way to think it? Because it should flow down in some respects.
It should,
and-
it
and
should
up a
all
little
be
bit, too.
aligned.
It should be
Yes,
aligned.
Should be aligned.
The other question I had was, my understanding is, because, these action plans, and I understand they had to fit in a box, fit on a page, right? And they need to be high level right now. And some element of some of those sentences we do to some extent right now, because you guys are really good. But now you're gonna take that statement, like 1.1.1, and then go into more detail. correct?
Absolutely.
And then as part of that detail, I'm hoping you might have, gee, if you could do anything, what would it be? Right? A little creativity, because y'all have that, right? I mean, can fit in there. And then as you come up with those, you're gonna come up with those measurements, and then I assume will be part of, that, getting that information of what you've distilled down, right, at a higher level, of course, but understanding what you're gonna do with it going forward, right?
I think just like we give you data now on where we are in our mid-year reviews, where we are in our planning and our academics, I think we would give you we actually will have that big team come in the spring. We could invite the board to come and hear there, but we also could present it at a meeting like this, or we could do a workshop or our team of 8 training, wherever, but we would give you updates on where we are and what's being implemented and how we're measuring it.
Awesome.
And measurement, like the consultants gave an example, measurement can be simple survey, right? Satisfaction survey can be a measurement. Student graduation rate can be a measurement of you have different formative measurements as well. So everything won't be measured exactly the same. It'll depend on what it is. A percentage of employees that have been through a certain professional learning, just because that's the first one up here. But finance, a measurement could be, if y'all recall, we had goals almost 5 years ago to get our fund balance up, right? We've met that goal. Well, we want to maintain it. We don't want to fall below that fund balance amount that we want to maintain. We always want a balanced budget. We're not going to go in a deficit. We'll make cuts before we go in with a deficit. Just certain things, our rating, our first rating. At one point, we were a B. Our goal was to make an A. We're at an A. We want to maintain an A. Those are just some fiscal things. our building programs. We've stayed within budget of what we promised our taxpayers in 2018, even during tough times with supply chain and a 15% inflation rate. We've been able to stay within our budget and not have to go out for more dollars like some districts have. So we have goals set, and we can measure it by do we have an A rating? We want the meritorious award again. So we have things that we strive for that we measure in different areas, and it just depends on which pillar we're on and which action plan we're in. But yes, we definitely would keep the board up to date on how we're doing. And honestly, once the owners are chosen, they're going to go through a training, right? Dr. Valdez and I and Mr. Gesh will be going through a training on the evaluation piece and when we're rolling out. We were already told we can't do everything the first year because we're like, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. But like Trustee Johnson said, we also have to be realistic with our employees that we're not overloading them because we're all excited because we just went through this process and we feel like we have a great plan. But it's up to the board. I mean, if you all choose, once we get to that action item, to tell us to go back and rework it, we'll go back and rework it because that's what we do. So it's up to y'all. So.
Well, I want to say one thing. I know this is going to be a lot of work, and it puts a lot of extra work on y'all. And we as a board came and did this and trying to make improvements and stuff. And I'm by far no way am I an educator. And I truly trust y'all to come back with our vision and make it work. Y'all are the educators. This is what y'all do for a living. If we weren't happy with what y'all are doing, y'all would not be in the position y'all are in. So I want to thank y'all, and I trust y'all on this right here.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much. All right, now we'll go to the consent agenda items. Does anybody want to pull any of those separately? All right, do we have a motion to approve consent agenda items A through J as presented? By Trustee Harris, second by Trustee Selsky. Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Let me get down here. Next, we have request to consider approval of TASB policy update 120. Carol?
So Board Update 120 has been reviewed and discussed by both Cabinet and was sent to the Board of Trustees for review. Administration's asking for consideration of approval for TASB Policy Update 120, the legal policies, and local policy revisions to CKC, EC, FFI, F&G, and FO as noted in the attached as recommended by TASB Policy Services. Policy CB local verbiage will remain as it currently is in Alvin ISD's policy.
I've lost my page here, so give me just a second. I think this.
Page 114.
Those are all consent.
Sorry about that.
Well, no, that's
not it.
oh, go up. There it is.
This one in here? Sorry about this. This is it.
Yes.
All right. Do we have a motion to approve TASB policy update 120 as noted above?
So moved.
By Trustee Peterson. Do we have a second by Trustee Scheibel? Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of Alvin ISD strategic plan.
So Board, in order to effectively plan for the future of Alvin ISD, the district has been engaged in the strategic planning process from November 2022 through March of 2023. Groups from all stakeholders of the district, students, parents, teachers, campus administrators, district administrators, community members, and board members have collaborated to develop the plan that's attached for Board's consideration for approval.
Do we have a motion to approve the Alvin ISD strategic plan as presented.
So moved.
By trustee Harris, second by trustee Scott. Any questions or comments?
Quick comment.
All in favor? Oh, wait.
Quick, I just wanted to thank you all for the work done thus far, the work that potentially will be done in the future, and I do appreciate it.
Well, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. Motion carries 6-1. Next, we have request to consider approval of employment of personnel.
So board, attached, you will find a list of personnel that, actually, you have an updated list that's at your place. I believe there's 4 people on there. It was an update today from HR for consideration for approval.
All right, do we have a motion approval be granted for requested personnel items as presented?
So moved.
By trustee Scheibel, do we have a second?
Second.
By trustee Peterson. Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of administrative contracts.
So board, in compliance with Texas Education Code, the board may consider administrator, principal, assistant principal contracts at its March meeting, and attached are those administrators who are up for consideration for renewal for a 3-year contract and 1-year probationary contracts and employee agreement. And this list may also include others in the future, but this is our current list.
All right, do we have a motion to approve administrator, principal, assistant principal contract recommendations for extensions as listed?
So moved.
Trustee Harris, do we have a second by trustee Scott? Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of administrative appointment, assistant principal Nolan Ryan Junior High.
So board, one of our administrators at Nolan Ryan Junior High transferred over to the Manville High School opening that was open due to Mr. Landgrebe moving to the special ed department as one of our coordinators. So that left the opening at Nolan Ryan Junior High. And this evening, the committee's recommendation is Mr. Stephen Gilmore. Mr. Gilmore is currently serving Alvin ISD as the special ed education department chair and past teacher at Dr. Red Duke Elementary School. He's also served Alvin Junior High, East C. Mason Elementary, and Manville High School as a district behavior class teacher. Stephen previously also served HISD as a behavior program specialist for a year and lead assistant principal for 3 years. During his time at Alvin Junior High, Stephen was an administrative intern for a year. He was also nominated for Teacher of the Year in 2021-22 and was named Teacher of the Year in 2021. Stephen has 13 years of experience in education, 9 of those being here in Alvin ISD. He received his bachelor's degree in consumer science from Texas State University and his MBA in management from Texas Women's University. And the committee's recommendation for board consideration is Mr. Stephen Gilmore.
Do we have a motion to approve Mr. Stephen Gilmore as assistant principal at Nolan Ryan Junior High?
So moved.
Trustee Selsky, do we have a second?
Second.
By trustee Johnson, any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Mr. Gilmore? So, Stephen,
Introduce your family.
Stephen, will you please stand and introduce your family for us?
My wife Crystal and my son Colin. He attends Red Duke.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Congratulations. I'm sorry, Ms. Hall, you're going to have to look for a new teacher. Oh.
Next, we have request to consider approval of new position, assistant principal, Rise Academy.
So board, we're asking for consideration for a new position at Rise Academy. We currently have an intern that has served there the last couple of years, and we've seen the value in having that position there on campus to help with a multitude of things. This position will also take on additional responsibilities this summer. Once the position, if approved, will move forward, then with a recommendation most likely in April is what HR tells me.
All right, do we have a motion to approval be granted for a new position, Associate Assistant Principal, Rise Academy?
So moved.
By trustee Harris, do we have a second?
Second.
By trustee Scheibel. Any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have request to consider approval of administrative appointment, Principal, Mary Merrick Elementary.
So board, last month, you named Miss Sandy Holzclaw as the new principal to open Nichols Mock Elementary School, which left a vacancy at Mary Merrick Elementary. And the committee recently did interviews, and they're recommending Mr. Jesse Brown. He's currently serving Alvin ISD as assistant principal at Laura Ingalls Wilder Elementary. He previously served McNair Junior High as the lead counselor when the school opened, Nolan Ryan Junior High, and Glen York Elementary as counselor when York opened, and also Mary Merrick as a math science teacher. I believe Dr. Valdez hired him years ago. Jesse has received multiple recognitions by Alvin ISD, including Teacher of the Year at Merrick Elementary in 2010, Counselor of the Year in 2014, and Elementary Assistant Principal of the Year in 2022. Jesse has 17 years of experience in education, all of these years being with Alvin ISD. He received his Bachelor of Arts degree in social work from Texas Tech University and his Master's in Education School Counseling from the University of Houston, Victoria. So the committee's recommendation for board consideration is Mr. Jesse Brown for principal at Mary Merrick Elementary School.
Do we have a motion to approve Mr. Jesse Brown as principal of Mary Merrick Elementary?
So
By
moved.
trustee Selsky, do we have a second?
Second.
By trustee Scott, any questions or comments? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Jesse, will you please stand and introduce your family?
So this is my wife Lindsay. She's the math instructional coach at McNair. This is my oldest Lincoln. He's in first grade this year. My youngest Riggs is in kindergarten.
And they're at Walter currently? Okay, so the big decision in the family is coming. So
Good job.
congratulations.
That's awesome.
At this time, we're going to close it. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act, 551072.
So those that were just named, Stephen and Jesse, if you and your families will come up front, Ms. Rives.
To adjourn, do we have a second?
Second.
Trustee Scott, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion, we are adjourned. Thank y'all very
All
much.
right, thank y'all. Good night.